Hello everyone, I'm here to show how I take pages out of a hardbound book, a novel or a blank book. When you're doing a glue book and you're using an already made book, especially a hardbound book like this, your book was built to hold a certain number of pages. And when you're doing a glue book, you are gluing images on both sides of the paper. So what you are doing is you are tripling the size of the pages that are in the book. Now a spine that's meant to hold 100 pages all of a sudden now is holding 300 pages. That spine gets extremely stressed. They can break, they can crack, and then you are left with trying to repair the spine of a book after you've done all the work gluing images in. So you want to thin out your pages before you start, and then you won't have to worry about your spine breaking. So, like I said, you're tripling the amount of pages. If you are putting images on the entire page, front and back, you are tripling the amount of pages that go into the book. So you need to take out more than half of your pages just to make sure you have enough room in that book to expand for all the images that will be put in the book. Now this one is the same blank book that I used for the other glue book. This one I have taken out probably half the pages, maybe a little bit more. I'm not quite sure, but you can see all the gaps in there. Now, sometimes when you take out that many pages, you can also weaken the binding. Oh, it went down. All right. What I'm discussing here are sewn in signatures. You want to be able to see the threads. You know that you've got a binding that's sewn. If you take out too many pages, that thread can get loose and your pages start to move around and they can start to tear, and you can lose pages that way as well. So it is kind of a guesstimate game as to how many you want to take out. You can't take too many out. You don't want to take too few out. It's really a hard call to make. I would say a little less than half of your pages need to come out of a book that's pre-bound like this. Okay? That's a rough estimate. It's what I usually go by. So this is a composition book, and again, it is sewn in, and I just wanted to show, you can see the stitches. It's just one signature, so you can find that the stitches pretty easily. When you're tearing pages out of a binding like this, I usually tear out the entire page. You don't want to tear out half of a page and then have the other one left into the book, because this page, once you've ripped out its partner, it doesn't have anything that holds it into the book. So you want to make sure that it comes out, because if you put things on that page, it's more than likely going to fall out of the book. It doesn't have anything to hold it in. So when you're tearing out pages, you want to make sure that you have both sides of that page. I usually take 1 or 2 pages out from the center, and then I count like 3 or 4 pages and maybe tear out that page as well. So this is what I would do. Say I want to tear out the fourth page on this side, I would count the fourth page on this side as well. And then I know that that is the page that I'm ripping out. So I rip out from the spine that page as close to the binding as I possibly can, and then usually the other side of that will pretty much fall out. It'll come out of the stitching. Did I count it right? Nope, I didn't count it right. This is the one that I tore out. And you can see it just kind of falls out because there's nothing in there to hold it. So that is how you tear out pages. If you don't want to tear out pages, like in a novel, and you want to glue some pages together to make them a little bit more secure, this is how I go about doing that. Let's see, let's get a group of pages. I'm going to take out more than half of these pages, okay? So I am gathering together 5 pages. 2, 3, 4, 5 pages. I am going to rip out 3 of those pages and glue the other 2 together. Alright, so the first one of the 5 pages I'm just going to put to the side. The next 3, sometimes you can do this together and sometimes you do it separately. I'm just going to try it together. I like to tear out with a metal ruler. So this is the next 3 pages. I am going to leave a little tab of those pages and rip the pages against the ruler. It makes them come out a little bit easier. And you've got some of those pages left here. And what this does is it leaves that space for the spine, that amount of space. It makes the spine stronger. Instead of tearing out those pages entirely, you've kept the space for that spine, okay? And it doesn't put stress on the spine. So then what I'm going to do is glue the first and the last pages together, and I'm just going to use a glue stick. You can use any kind of glue that you want to. And I am going to put glue on the page, the entire page, and I am going to put glue especially thick around the edges. Around the edges is where your page will come unglued first, and I'm going to put glue on the other side as well, and mostly around the edges. Okay? The edges will come unglued first, so you want to make sure that there's no little space for them to come unglued. So then what I do is I start at this spine here, and I take my cotton t-shirt or my cotton washcloth, and I start from the spine and press those pages together out from the center. And this way I don't have any air bubbles in between that page. And I rub it down, make sure that I get all the glue connecting those 2 pages together. So what I have done is I have taken out 3 pages, left in 2, and glued those 2 together, so I've got a very strong page. And I also have room on the spine for all 5 of those pages. So I can glue images on the front and the back of that page and still have, and the book won't get too fat, is what I'm trying to say. You've solved that problem, and the spine will stay strong. So I would go through the entire book and glue your pages together, take out pages as you need to, and prepare the book before you start gluing your images in. And then you know that you've got your book ready to go, and you don't have to worry about tearing pages out as you are working on them. So you know that I like working in signatures, so you can also make your signatures. I do have videos on making signatures. I will make this one really fast with these calendar pages. I'm going to put 4 pages together. I have my 4 pages here. I'm going to fold them. I fold them separately. It makes the creep just a little less. Fold that in half. I use a bone folder. Crease the middle first and go to the edges. This helps to keep your corners in place. And you want to stack up your pages all together. And I'm just going to use just some regular thread because this is just temporary for me, and I will be sewing it with thicker thread when I sew it into a cover. So I need to go 2 and a little bit lengths of the tallness of the book. And I do have a whole video on sewing signatures together. I like working in signatures. I don't have to guess how thick my pages are going to get. I can put all kinds of stuff on them, all kinds of layers, and I don't have to worry about it. I just sew my signatures in to a cover that I make when I know how thick to make the cover. So I've threaded a needle, and I use a thimble because I don't punch the holes for just a signature. I don't punch holes ahead of time. I guesstimate. I like to go through the center, and I go through the valley of the fold so that the needle will come out right at the mountain. It's easier to go through the valley than it is through the mountain. And when you have your pages all cradled together like this, it's easier to get those pages all on the crease, the hole through the crease. And so with that being said, I am going to make a hole on the top here for my 3-hole pamphlet stitch. And I'm just going to go through and make the hole, but I am going to go through the back side here. And I am holding those papers together in place so that that hole will stay right where I want it. And then I go to the bottom and punch a hole through and get the thread all the way through as well. I want to make sure I've got a good tail going and the tail doesn't escape. You want to hold on to it, or make sure that it's not going all the way through. And then you want to go through the center hole that you started with. You don't want to go through that thread. You want to be able to tighten up your threads a little bit, but you're going through the same hole and all the way up. And then you want to make sure you've got a thread that goes from the top to the bottom, and you've got 2 tails. You want to make sure that you've got the tails, one on each side of that thread, that center thread, and you want to pull it so that it's firm, it's snug, but it's not bending your pages. You don't want any loose threads. You want to make sure that your signature is sewn together pretty well. Unthread your needle and just tie a square knot over the top of the center thread. And then cut off the tails and you've got your signature all sewn and ready to put images into. So it's just, I find I like working with the signatures more than I like working with already built books. Takes a lot of guessing out of it. So that is the basic how to prepare a book for glue books. Thanks for watching.